In Senate floor remarks on Wednesday, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer touted the Inflation Reduction Act and Democratic economic policies. Schumer listed a number of companies making investments in factories and personnel that he says are connected to the legislation which passed on a party line vote before the August recess. As the midterms near, Democrats have seized upon a potentially improving economy as proof that their program is working. Republicans, however, have sought to remind voters of the still high inflation and gas prices that remain at least double what they were when President Trump left office. Generic congressional polls have tightened in recent surveys and show an unexpectedly competitive landscape going into the fall.
President.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, our democracy cannot hope to hang together for very long without a trusted, balanced, and fair-minded judiciary. As we have seen in stark and frightful ways in recent months, the men and women who preside from the bench hold immense power over our nation's destiny and over our people's liberties. When it comes to nominating people to the bench, it's imperative that we get it right. So today, the Senate will continue its duty to advance President Biden's highly qualified, highly diverse, and highly accomplished judicial nominees. We will begin this afternoon by voting on the confirmation of Judge John Lee to serve as Circuit Judge for the Seventh Circuit. If confirmed, Judge Lee will make history as the first Asian American ever to preside on the Seventh Circuit, joining the proud company of other Biden nominees who are making our courts more reflective of our country. I expect Judge Lee to receive bipartisan support, and his record certainly merits it. He's already been confirmed by this chamber when appointed to serve as district judge roughly a decade ago. And over the course of his tenure, Judge Lee has authored over 800 opinions while being reversed only 11 times. Later today, the Senate will vote to advance the notation of another outstanding individual, Andre Mathis, to serve as Circuit Judge for the Sixth Circuit. Mr. Mathis would be the first black man confirmed to the Sixth Circuit in nearly a quarter of a century, and the first to hail from Tennessee. Growing up, Mr. Mathis knew what it was like to go days without food, water, or heating. And yet, despite immense adversity, he was the first in his family to attend college and graduate from law school with honors. He spent over 15 years in private practice and has an extensive pro bono record. If confirmed, I'm confident Mr. Mathis would make an excellent circuit court judge. Mr. President, confirming judges will continue to be a very top priority for the Senate in the days and weeks and months to come. Last night, I filed cloture on 2 additional circuit nominees, which members can expect to begin voting on as soon as Thursday. Now, I want to take a moment to emphasize how far Senate Democrats have come in keeping our promise to bring balance back to the federal bench, which under President Trump skewed dramatically to the hard right. To date, Senate Democrats have confirmed 76 federal judges, far more than the number confirmed at this point of President Trump's presidency. In fact, we've confirmed more judges than either President Trump or President Obama did this far into their administrations. In a dramatic break from the past, 75% of these nominees have been women, half of them women of color. That's a figure I dare say has never been seen before when it comes to judicial nominees. We're going to continue prioritizing judges moving forward. We cannot let the judiciary succumb to the hard right, because as we have seen, the consequences are devastating to the American people. Now on the Democratic results. The Inflation Reduction Act was signed into law less than a month ago, and already, Mr. President, the verdict is in. Our bill is already creating new investments, new jobs, new opportunities for American families, jobs here in America, not overseas. Let me repeat the good news. The Inflation Reduction Act that every Republican voted against is already delivering for our country. This morning, the New York Times reported that in wake of the Inflation Reduction Act, a whole host of companies, quote, have announced a series of big-ticket projects to produce the kind of technology the legislation aims to promote. For example, companies like Toyota have announced billions in new investments to start manufacturing batteries for electric and hybrid vehicles right here in America. Elsewhere, the company First Solar announced a $1 billion investment to build a new solar manufacturing facility in the Southeast. Their CEO was explicit that their decision hinged in large part on our legislation, saying it provided a level of clarity that made investment in the U.S. the right move. The examples go on. Honda and LG Energy also announced over $4 billion for EV battery production in the U.S. Panasonic, which supplies parts to Tesla's EV production, said they're also considering a $4 billion to build another EV battery plant. And thanks to tax incentives we passed recently that specifically reward domestic battery production, Samsung has decided to accelerate plans to break ground on their own EV battery plant within the next few months in the U.S. These are just a few examples of how the Inflation Reduction Act is already delivering on its promise to create countless new jobs and ignite billions in private sector investment, pave the way for America to lead the future with cheap and reliable clean energy. Had we not done this, these plants probably would have been built, most of them overseas. America, as electric vehicles become predominant throughout our country and the world, America would have lost out. We led the world in auto production in the 20th century, and because of this act and what Democrats, without a single Republican vote, have done, we're going to lead in the 21st century as well. It's exciting and gratifying to know that millions of Americans will be employed in good-paying jobs, in jobs that have a real future. All of this is the result of Democratic leadership keeping its promise to the American people. And again, I have to say, this kind of thing used to happen when Democrats and Republicans came together. It's shameful that not a single Republican voted with us to pass these investments, not one. And of course, I'd also be remiss not to highlight all the ways the CHIPS and Science Act is sparking a new waves of investment as well. Just recently, the CEO of Micron announced a $15 billion investment in manufacturing last week, saying the CHIPS and Science Act, quote, made this investment decision possible. And Micron has committed to significantly more and even larger investments to come, I'm happy to say. Mr. President, when you pass good legislation, you get good results. It's been a long time, sadly, since the American people have felt that Washington is capable of doing big things to meet big challenges. After 4 years of President Trump, who spent all his time, it seems, just being nasty and negative and calling people names, but making promises and never getting anything concrete done, Democrats are actually delivering with real results. Senate Democrats have shown that with the right people in office, government can work to promote, not hinder, the well-being and security of the American people. It's why we took on Big Pharma and won. It's why we took on entrenched oil interests and won. It's why we took on the NRA and beat them by passing the first gun safety law in decades. And all of this, Mr. President, is the result of Democrats following through on our promise. While the junior senator from Florida continues to promote tax hikes for working families and putting Medicare on the chopping block, Democrats want to cut costs for families, increase prosperity, continue to strengthen ladders for people to get into the middle class, and give them the stability to say once they're there, they're going to stay there. And Democrats have given America hope in the future, that in the new industries and new ways of thinking and new sciences, we're going to lead, not follow, not lag behind, not spend time, as President Trump did most of his time, playing petty political games and never getting anything done. We're getting stuff done. Big stuff, important stuff, stuff that gives us a brighter future. That's why we worked so hard to pass our agenda. And already it's clear the American people are feeling the benefits. I yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.